What is going on, everybody? Hello, happy Friday. Welcome to the show. You know how it is. My name is Omar M. Khateeb. I'm your head of state and host of the State of MedTech. We got a great show today. I'm going to be joined by my collaborators on this fantastic and first NFT project in the MedTech space. That is the infamous, the legendary, the epic Mad Device Rep, and of course, Henry Peck, who you also know in the space. Now, I'm going to bring them on. We're going to have a great show. We're going to go a little bit into like what NFTs are, for those of you who are not quite familiar with it yet. And as always, I want to see you drop in the chat. We're across multiple platforms, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and of course, LinkedIn. Drop in the chat. What city are you coming in from? Let's make the chat fun. You can ask questions there. We'll highlight your comments, and then we'll just have a really good time. So let me bring them on. So of course, first to the stream, let me bring on the Mad Device Rep. MDR, you there?
What's up, Red Hat Gang?
What is going on, my friend? As always, it's a pleasure to have you. It's an honor. How are things going in the Mad Device world?
That's going well. I'm just glad not to have to take the stream from my car in a hospital parking lot. So it's been good. It's been busy. I think we're finally coming out of the woods on some of this COVID stuff, minus our own supply chain issues. So everybody hang in there.
Fantastic. Oh, and great. We already got some comments. Kimberly V, thank you so much for joining in from Milwaukee. Ava Gherkin from Paris. We got international people. Hey, Perry, welcome. Sam Lupolis from Denver. Thank you so much. Welcome. Yeah, jump in the chat. Drop in the chat where you're joining in from. And of course, do some work, people. We're going to put a lot of energy into entertaining you right now. Throw some emojis up. This is how this stream gets shown. And then let me bring on our third collaborator. So Henry Peck is somebody that I met in the medical world. He's somebody who's in the surgical robotics space. And at a very, very early stage, he's somebody that stuck out to me because I've never met somebody who understood surgical robotics, the landscape, the innovation, the way Henry does. He's a young guy, but I'll tell you what, listening to him talk about medtech, decentralized science, and innovation, it's kind of like watching John Madden call football. It's just really entertaining. He's somebody that I'm constantly pushing. And for those of you who are aware of it, if you're on Clubhouse, all of you have joined the MedTech Club, which is the largest clubhouse in healthcare on Clubhouse. It's 97,000 people. Henry is the one of the founders of that club and the reason why it's so successful. So Henry Peck, welcome. How you doing?
What's up? Good. How are you?
Good, man. Good to see you. It's a pleasure.
You too.
Awesome. And let me just give a little shout out to some people who have dropped in the chat. Andrea coming in from Dallas. Fabian from Germany. Hope to find a use for NFTs for fundraising. Fabian, you're on the right track, and Henry's going to cover that. Mia's from San Francisco. John Hart, Cincinnati. Thomas, Pittsburgh. Somebody's coming. Drew Meyer from Vail. So fancy. And Hans Kasperson. Hans, somebody I have a tremendous amount of respect in the pharma world, biotech world, coming in from Jersey. Welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody. Now, before we jump into the discussion today, I know many people keep asking about what an NFT is, so on and so forth. I'm going to drop in the chat a link to an article for you to read. But really quick, I know it's Friday. Nobody wants PowerPoint slides, but I'm going to show just three quick slides, and we're going to get right into it, okay? So here we are. Gentlemen, you let me know as soon as you can see my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Looks good.
I can.
Awesome. So real quick, I need to always give credit where credit is due. Rhett Mankind, I do not know him, but these are screenshots from his video on YouTube, which I really liked a lot. I definitely recommend check it out. Go follow him. I like his channel. I don't personally know him, but these are his slides. So let's talk about what an NFT is. So if we look at assets, okay, on the far left, we have what's fungible and non-fungible. What I want you to guys remember is something that's fungible is something that can be traded, right? So for example, money, $1 is equal to another dollar. One coin is worth one coin. One gold brick is worth one gold brick. That's in the physical world, as you can see here in the y-axis. So that's the physical world. In the digital world, things that are fungible, Bitcoin, right? Traveler points. You know how you can trade traveler points? One traveler point in Southwest is worth one traveler point Southwest. Ethereum, that's fungible. These things are all tradable. All right. something that's non-fungible. All right. In the physical world, the Mona Lisa is non-fungible. Just because I paint an exact replica of the Mona Lisa doesn't make it the Mona Lisa. My house, if you took my exact house here today and replicated it next door to me, that's not the same house, right? That's non-fungible. Tickets to a concert or theater, that's non-fungible. And then finally, in the digital world, if you think about skins, so if you play video games like World of Warcraft or something, a skin is non-fungible. You can't trade that. Contracts and patents, digitally are non-fungible. And then this little cute kitty here, this is the first NFT project that blew up called CryptoKitties. Those are non-fungibles. Now, the last thing is that when you think about a token, this is a digital contract, right? You're the only owner to it, and it lives on what's called the blockchain. So the blockchain is a public ledger. And the main thing I want you to remember is that in real life, if I bought a Lamborghini and I took pictures with it, you don't know whether I really own that Lamborghini or I actually rented it out. However, if I show an NFT that's worth $500,000, that's public, and you can determine whether that's true or not. So let me stop sharing there and come back to the group, and let's kick this stuff off. So, gentlemen, where do you guys want to start? And we're going to take questions from the crowd.
I just want to start with the fact that I'm scared that that Lamborghini that I rented in Miami was not actually mine.
I know, man. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out. That was a low blow. Low blow.
No, I think it's great to see kind of that framework laid out. And it is funny from a marketing perspective, Omar, I know you'll appreciate this, that they describe everything in Web3 as what it's not rather than what it is. I think the CTO of HubSpot called that out too, non-fungible, decentralized, as opposed to describing what it is. And I think that can be where a lot of the confusion comes from. And so it's great to see it laid out that way. And I think, we've talked about NFTs and, the mechanics of them there on the blockchain, being able to store tokens. But what that literally means, I think, again, kind of breaking it out further, is being able to store information and transmit it in such a way that it is able to be validated in a public way. That can be applied now, that decentralized framework, to things like company building, fundraising, communication, community building, all things that we'll touch on. But I think it's important to keep in mind, it's not just about moving contracts left and right. It's about the things that are contained with that contract, the unique asset that contract is representing or pointing to is where the power is.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good thing to point out, Henry. I think, Henry, where do you think most of the confusion comes from when people start thinking about NFTs and blockchain?
Yeah, I think part of it is that they only see the top layer. So, you see the price of Bitcoin change, and you see the image of the kitty or the Bored Ape or the crypto punk that's representing the power of that NFT. And it's interesting because if we were to just show you the raw lines of code behind, what is actually a Bored Ape that's giving you the power of that, people wouldn't really understand it. So the imagery and sometimes the art that is captured there to kind of be a proxy for that power ends up doing more harm than good. But I think that's what it is the top layer is what's super visible. What's less visible with something like the Bored Ape are the Discord communities they're a part of, the meetups they're having in New York City and Miami, the communication and networking that they're doing, kind of the key that the NFT is. You see, what you don't see is the door that it's unlocking. And so I think it's like if somebody's jingling around this big gold key, you don't really know what it does until you see the giant castle door that it unlocks. I think that's where a lot of the confusion is those doors are kept private and concealed for a lot of different reasons, but that's what the public doesn't see a lot of the times.
That's a great point. Something that I want to, ask both of you guys, because both of you guys, like myself, we got early in on crypto. Maybe you guys, I think, were earlier than me, but I've been quote unquote hodl and holding my crypto since 2017. I think the positive side of NFTs is that, of course, there's a lot of attention to the media and everything, but what people are seeing are like teenagers making hundreds of thousands of dollars on like these JPEGs. And of course, I feel like once you get into the crypto game, it's same with NFTs. The problem is that a lot of people look for a shortcut to wealth, right? Like it's a lottery ticket. And that's where a lot of scams and issues come up. And I think that does a lot of injustice to what this could really be, especially in a more serious setting. Like, Henry, you and I are going to be on stage next week at LSI to talk about Web3 and NFTs in front of the world's most powerful strategics and investors. There's a whole other world of how this can be taken seriously and really change things. But I mean, what do you guys thoughts about like you know, I mean, I feel like 98% of the NFT projects out there are probably going to end up being scams. Maybe not 98%, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can touch on that as somebody who got rug pulled not too long ago.
And could you, and for the people who are not aware of what this term rug pull is, can you please define that?
It's one of the worst things that can happen to you in the crypto world. So it's basically when a project is sold as a very legitimate investment. And what ends up happening is the founders involved have set it up as nothing but a cash grab. So they'll make all of these promises of what the NFT is going to do, what you're going to get access to, communities, merchandise. And as soon as they sell out all of their NFTs, all of the founders go dark. They delete all of their posts. Their Discord communities are deleted. They actually go as far as to change their Twitter handles and all of their social media handles. So there's really no accountability. It's hard to trace. And there's a very important distinction to be made across these NFT projects between things that are really just a cash grab, a worthless JPEG, a picture of like some half-assed picture of a cat, versus a project with real utility and real founders. So to put our community's mind at ease, Omar and Henry are public figures on this project. Their names are assigned to this.
We've doxed ourselves essentially. Yeah.
I'm an anonymous figure, but I also have a brand to protect. I would hate to throw away the 2.5 years I've spent building this community and the trust of the community over a project that's not legitimate. So that's what I want to clarify is when you're looking at the NFT market and you're looking at updates and news and you see all of these scams coming out, NFTs alone are not scams. They're not scam projects. There's real utility and use cases behind it. Go ahead, Henry.
I was going to say, maybe this statement will be a little controversial as where I take it, but I think it's a great call out, right? The scams become very public in Web3, and I think that's because it's new. And so when people don't understand, they're looking for you see those negative cases a lot. But what I think people kind of forget is that scams in and of themselves have existed well before Web3. And I would argue that as we talk about healthcare and decentralized science per se, you could argue that you got rugged if you gave your data to 23andMe. You paid them $150 to sequence your genome, turn around, batch your data, and then sell it at a massive profit to Pharma, and you saw $0 on that. And you never knew that's what they were going to do with your data because you just thought you were getting insights on your genetics and history and ancestry and all this stuff. So again, I would argue, of course, it's a different concept. It's not, turning around and going dark, but that kind of public deception is something that I think has been around in every era of the internet. And what I think is encouraging about Web3 is that although, yes, you're seeing in the early days some naivety leading, the holes in the system being exposed, the transparent governance that DAOs operate with, that these decentralized organizations are forced to operate with, and the ability to trace and track and validate using blockchain-based technologies as digital fluency rises and adoption increases, I think you'll actually see the prevalence of scams like that go far down as opposed to continue.
Absolutely. And I don't know if his profile is going to show, but real quick, I want to show this is Tim Fitzpatrick. Right now, it's just LinkedIn user. Tim, you have your profile in private, but that's okay. So Tim says he loves the shout out to Dharmesh. Dharmesh is the founder of HubSpot, and he's mentioned that he's talking a lot about Web3 in the B2B landscape. But kind of bringing it back to our project, maybe that's a good place to start, which is why did we start this project, and what's the purpose of it? Someone buys this NFT that we're going to be minting soon or launching. What does that essentially mean? What do they own, and what does that mean for them?
So I can talk about how it relates to the Red Hat Gang community, what we've built across the Instagram platform. One, this is a representation of who we are as sales reps. The figure itself is a chameleon. You're the character of this NFT that it's based on. And that came from a poll that we ran. So this is probably a month or two ago about, what is the spirit animal of the Red Hat Gang? How do we see ourselves as medical device professionals if we had to relate it to an animal? And of course, the first few submissions, you have the honey badger, the tiger, the lion. And I'm trying to make it pretty specific. Like, let's get original here. Like, let's think a little bit deeper than that. And it came down to the honey badger and the chameleon. And the chameleon won. And the reason behind that was, people like to say the phrase, honey badger doesn't give a shit. That reps are going in with this reckless mentality and just selling and burning everything down. But that's not really what we do. What we try to do is really address the needs of the customer, blend into our environment, protect our habitat in a productive manner. And so it ended up being, in my mind, the perfect spirit animal and the perfect character for this NFT project. And so what it means to our community, even deeper than that, is the chance, if you're holding this NFT, to help us build and continue to build out this concept of NFTs and how they relate to this community. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper, but there will be a community platform on Discord where you will have exclusive access to this community by holding on to this NFT.
Yeah, and I think, Omar, when we had started the dialogue and brought MDR in, a lot of it was about, the proof point that this technology is not only being adopted by the system at large, but the individuals inside the system that are going to have to lead that first wave of change in MedTech, Biotech, life science. So, kind of creating an NFT with community utility. It's both something where, as MDR is saying, there's going to be a community aspect to it. We're going to continue to grow, foster connections. I think about if we had kind of technologies like this in the loop during something like the Clubhouse boom, how easy and effective it would have been to create that sense of community, to monetize your community, monetize your audience, with other companies, with other opportunities. And this is much less of that play, but much more of the let's bring the great connections and foster the collaboration that we had there over here in the next generation of the internet, and also kind of get people wearing this as a badge of honor. Like, we are embracing this. We're moving fast as a medtech, healthcare, biotech, life science community, whereas in previous generations, this industry has been notoriously slow moving. So really want to kind of just push the envelope a little bit and challenge our community to be the leaders in something new rather than the followers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Oh, MDR, go ahead. And just another reminder to our audience. Thank you. We have a lot of people watching across all these platforms. If you have questions or comments, drop them in the chat. I will highlight them. So especially if you have a question, please drop them in the chat. MDR, you're going to say something?
I just wanted to clarify something about what we mean too when we talk about this community for this NFT project. We're talking about MedTech on the whole, right? It's not exclusive. You don't have to be a rep to be involved in this project. If you build the product, if you use the product, regulate it, doesn't matter. This project's for everybody involved in this entire industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And something, I'm glad you brought that up, because what was interesting, and I was planning on this happening, but not as fast as I expected. But in our initial email list of people who wanted to sign up to purchase the NFT, which, by the way, just for everybody who's wondering, we're still discussing where we need to price it at, but it's not going to be hundreds of dollars or even in the thousands. We want to make it affordable for people. And the other thing I want everyone to know is that we've all, aside from the hours of time that we've put in ourselves, we've actually put money into these things. So we had to put money into designing the website, the NFT artwork that costs about $3,000, believe it or not, because we went with a really good designer. But something that I wasn't expecting so soon was physicians have actually signed up to get access to this. And I think what's interesting about that is that physicians, if you look at Dr. Vinod Das, who's an orthopedic surgeon, he's very big about the medical sales rep becoming a trusted advisor. And so if, in building this community, having physicians involved will give access to reps to understand how the market landscape is changing. I think the Mad Device Rep, one thing that I really admired was that during the pandemic, the Instagram page that MDR manages became a huge resource for data and information in real time, because we could never figure out what was going on in the news, but reps would submit what was going on in their territories, and MDR would constantly put updates of what's happening in the country with hospitals, cases, so on and so forth. And so I think adding physicians to the mix only strengthens it. And I would say, I know we're going to have some MedTech execs join. I would not be surprised if some hospital CEOs join as well.
And that's where one other thing Dr. Das has said that I thought was really profound and changed the way I looked at my business and even my social media page was, he looks at reps to be curators of information. And I realized, that's what we were doing during the pandemic with updates about what was going on in everybody's territories. But it's also what I'm trying to do, supporting my vision going forward, but also the vision of this project. So if we have this diverse community, it's a lot easier to curate that information with people with diverse backgrounds and new perspectives and opinions and insight on where this needs to go.
Absolutely. And we have, funny enough, speaking of physicians, we already have a physician. I know we have multiple physicians watching this, but we have one physician who just asked a question. Dr. George T. Matthew asked, thank you, Dr. Matthew, for the question. So the question is, do you eventually see individuals and communities being able to mint their own NFTs of their health data? I have a quick answer to that, but I want to hand it over to Henry because he's got a much deeper perspective on this. My quick answer is yes. And think of it like this. I'll use myself as an example. How many times, and I'm a young guy, I went to medical school. I'm not like, I have my mental faculties. How difficult it is when I changed from, let's say, Kaiser to Blue of California for my health insurance. Every single time I have to remember what information I have to give that doctor to know about my personal medical history, my background history, et cetera. And I mean, I'm going to like really nice physician offices here in California. I went to one and I had to fill out paperwork, and I had to write things down. So imagine that you actually mint an NFT that is authenticated on a public ledger that shows your health data, right? So that could be transferred. So you don't have to guess about this stuff anymore. And more importantly, doctors are able to have that access so they can provide better care. But let me hand it over to Henry. Henry, please take it from here and share your thoughts on that.
And I want to just qualify. Look, I'm no blockchain maverick. I'm studied and I'm involved in the space. But I would say kind of the application that you're talking about, Omar, I actually know a couple companies working on. And really the mechanical side of it would be less of I mint an NFT for my data. It's more of a wallet. You think like a MetaMask, a Phantom, right? A digital wallet that aggregates information from different areas into your kind of patient wallet that you then take with you as you transition care like that. So yeah, very, very similar concept as what Dr. Matthew's describing. I think though, conceptually, when we take a step back and look broader at NFTs that contain or link to health data, and this is going to tie into something that Fabian has said in the comments about choosing which information you share. Let's take a practical example from a company called Genomes.io that has a DAO. And what they've done is minted NFTs such that that NFT codes for your genomic sequencing kit. You receive your kit, and then once you sequence your genome is now, genomic data is now affiliated with the NFT that you own, and that gives you access to the platform to be able to monetize your genomic data with pharmaceutical companies, to be able to batch it and sell it, and to selectively decide who can see it and who doesn't see it. So if you just want the insights from that data and you don't want any of the big pharma to see it, you can turn it off. If you only want certain uses of it, you can slide that on. So an example of where an NFT can actually be the key that unlocks the data that you're referring to there.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I want to let me pull up as a banner, just in terms of data. Here we go. So here's something to keep in mind. So over $1.2 billion of clinical documents are produced in the US every year. 80% of them are either unstructured or, again, locked away. And then here's the other figure that you need to know is that Americans spend about $750 billion, that's billion with a B, $750 billion a year on unnecessary treatments. And it's really true. Again, me having had some medical training and then working within the medical industry, this is absolutely true. Right? Even delaying treatment by 1 week or having a certain diagnosis, you have a massive amount of waste in the healthcare system because of this. Gents, we have another good question. Let me bring it up. Here we go. And this is, again, for those who wonder why your profile doesn't show up, and this is the downside, is that when you make your profile private publicly, you can't see your name or face. But so Drew, I won't say your last name. Drew said, I'm an NFT rookie. Help me understand, how does the Chameleon NFT provide access to the MedTech community y'all are building? Is it more of a fundraising opportunity? Drew, you must be from Texas because you said y'all. And I say that because I'm a fellow Texan. So, guys, which one of you guys want to take this question?
Go ahead, MDR.
Sure, I can talk about that. So There's a couple ways that we verify this. So the community platform is going to live on the Discord application. So if you're not familiar with Discord, it is a community platform where you can set up these inclusive communities that are invite based, and there's different channels where you can interact that can either be public or private. And so as moderators, we have access to who gets access to these different categories of channels. So the Mad Device Club has its own category within our community platform. And so there is actually a best way to describe this is basically a bot service that can connect to your wallet and verify if you are a legitimate holder of this NFT, and we can grant you access to that. There's another manual process where it's basically a screenshot of your wallet to prove that you do hold this, unique NFT, since NFTs all have a unique address, just like any kind of crypto token. And so for us, it'll probably start from a manual process as we continue to build this out, but we verify that you have proof that you own this asset, and we grant you access to this community, if that makes sense.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think summed it up really well. And again, I would just point out that the NFT is, again, this is an NFT is one component of this broader Web3 decentralized ecosystem. So although this is kind of your key that unlocks the door and brings you into this community, there are other things within the Web3 space that this community can have be built around it. We can bring together other opportunities, and then those that hold NFTs have early access, special privileges and rights, the opportunity to contribute and help build the community as well, all kind of in the Web3 environment. So it's just the beginning as well.
Yeah, and we have another good question. I can take this one real quick. So Scott Nelson, thank you. Scott says, in this instance, would the NFT containing my personal information need to then meet multiple EHR criteria to allow import? How do we break the reliance on EHR, which leads to many of these issues? Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm going to piss off a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. Doctors are going to love what I'm about to say. The EHR companies are going to be pissed, but whatever. EHRs were not designed to help you practice medicine better. And I can speak about this because, again, just as a fact, I did spend time in medical school, and so and then I work closely with doctors. EHRs, or electronic healthcare records, were not designed to help you practice medicine. Doesn't matter how many times you see a certain case. Patients do not fit in a drop-down menu. EHRs were designed as billing mechanisms, and essentially, in my opinion, a form of indentured slave labor administratively for doctors. Okay, so I think the biggest thing is that doctors do not need the EHR, right, in order to help them diagnose a patient, right? And a perfect example of this is, and Henry, MDR, let me know if I'm off on this example. But for example, I wear a Whoop device, right? So one of the things that's on there is heart rate variability. That's not in the EHR, but when I go and talk to the doctor, I open my phone. I'm like, look, this is what my heart rate variability looks like the last 3 months. We look at it together, and the doctor's like, yeah, okay. So based on this, you should, continue to, try not drink alcohol because that throws your HRV off, and you should try, let's say, walking 3 to 4 times a week. So that's a great example of that. And then the doctor can record that in the EHR. I would say that it's one of those things where we're not going to have all the answers at the beginning, but introducing a new vehicle to address problems is one way to start breaking the old system. And then you kind of build from there. Henry, MDR, thoughts?
I just want to take what Sam in the comments said. She's a experienced telehealth EMR expert, and she said they're for getting paid. You summed it up very well.
Yeah. Let's look at the comments real quick. And
some really good ones.
Yeah, some really good ones. So another physician, Dr. Joe Littlejohn. By the way,
let me take this one.
Yeah, take this one. But I got to tell you, Dr. Joe Littlejohn, in my opinion, has one of the coolest names I've ever seen. Joe Littlejohn. So Joe Littlejohn, how do you envision medical care delivered in the metaverse? Yeah, Henry, you please you take this one.
So as much as I love this technology,
we knew this live stream was going to send us down some rabbit holes, man. So
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of again break down some of the terms and stuff here. So like the metaverse gets a ton of buzz, and I think one thing that's really kind of irritated me recently is seeing companies that are Web2 companies that make augmented and virtual reality and things like that now rebrand, and especially in SEO too. They're all the metaverse.
Oh, metaverse.
I'm like, this is not the metaverse. And like Altoida, the company I work at, we build augmented reality driven platforms for neurological disease diagnosis and brain health. We are not a metaverse company right now. That's not what we are. And so, and I think like the reason I bring it up like this is that don't be fooled by what you see on, people buying real estate in Decentraland and, people selling Gucci purses for millions of dollars in virtual space. Like there are applications in gaming and in potentially in real estate and things like that. But I do not think what the metaverse is referring to when it comes to care delivery and healthcare more broadly is that you are going to be having, Sims style meetings with your patients. What the metaverse to me really refers to is the transition of thinking that things in a digital environment can have value the same way we've assigned value to things in a physical environment. And so what I think may be more potent, at least in the short term, is not the idea of you're going to see, care with your avatars, but perhaps that data could be used more effectively. We think in creating digital twins in clinical trials, or, things like that, where you're still preserving reality. I mean, it's not like we're going to be just, strapped into a headset living in this fake world. You're going to see fake doctors and that whole thing. But I think the idea is that your care delivery in the metaverse, I think, is going to be a more complex, nuanced approach to individuals having access and data transparency with their providers, rather than feeling like their care and their data lives in silos, is not able to be moved effectively. They don't have access to it effectively, and they don't own it at the end of the day. So I think that those are more the realities that I want to really focus on, and especially a lot of what we're seeing in decentralized science, the way that we're potentially realigning incentives in drug development and in healthcare. Really think that's the things to think about, not worry about having to see patients in some simulated VR environment.
Yeah, I completely agree.
There are applications in using VR in training, and potentially interoperative applications in surgery and things like that. And you see a lot of the really cool stuff happening in haptics and real-time feedback, but that's not really, I think, the direction that I'm as locked into.
So you don't need an Oculus just to go see your doctor?
I don't think so yet, MDR. But if I did, you might want to worry, because that means you're out of a job.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. But that is one thing too that I think that, not specific to medical care, but to how medical care is supplied, can also be affected by this, new Web3 technology, since these transactions are designed to be very transparent and, immutable, which is one of those blockchain words that gets thrown out there, essentially meaning unchanging, where you look at things like payment processing and the way that hospitals cut POs, could potentially be some utility there in the Web3 process, or in the Web3 technology.
It's funny you mention that. Something that when I saw the metaverse stuff come out, and like these different companies like, oh, we're getting in the metaverse and everything, it kind of reminds me, and Henry, you probably remember this, when I feel like AI became like a serious buzzword like 5 years ago, and there's all these MedTech companies that are just like low tech, and it's like, oh, we have some data, like random data. We're an AI company now.
Yeah,
and it's just
because analytics, because you can just take, if you actually look at what that means in most cases in medical device, and we can get it like in AI enabled diagnostics or AI, all these decision making support tools. It's generally, now we progress to like supervised machine learning models that learn from training sets and make binary classifications, and that's what they do. But that's like supervised machine learning. It has a definition, versus just like statistical analysis or clustering of data, which is not AI. But the same way people, I know where you're going, where you just kind of, you have a remnant of the core technology, so you throw the big buzzword on top of it. Same thing what you're seeing in the metaverse.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Joe Littlejohn, thank you for the comment. We got a lot of people actually on other platforms like Twitter and YouTube. One of the questions I got, let me just share my screen real quick because people are asking about the talk that you and I are giving next week, Henry. So it's going to be at the Life Science Intelligence Emerging MedTech Summit up in Dana Point. And Scott Pento, who's the head and the organizer of the conference and of LSI, will be giving us that video so that way we can share it. You'll be able to watch it, but just so people can see, the conference itself, I think, is at this point sold out, but there is virtual tickets. So let me just show that real quick so people know where to go. And I probably just gave somebody a seizure with that. So if you guys just head to Life Science, and then actually I'll grab this and drop it in the chat. But if you go to lifesciencemarketresearch.com, you'll go to their homepage. Here's the summit. And then if you go to the keynote and panels, here is, yep, there we are. And I have to give credit to Henry for this amazing title. If I can pull it up, here we go. Web3, NFTs, and decentralized science, the most important topic that you don't understand but should. We actually might be adding a guest panelist as well, another investor. But somebody I do recommend you guys go follow Scott Pantel on LinkedIn. So, but let me come back. We have some
that's
other.
That's gonna be such a fun panel and just a great opportunity to get really, important, powerful, accomplished individuals in our space thinking about this technology.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We had a really good, okay, here we go. I didn't read this whole section yet, or this whole comments. Let me come back to you guys real quick. Okay, here we go. Mia Nias, okay. Use cases in early discovery research leverage large data sets, genomic, proteomic, clinical, Internet of Things, etc. Mostly rely on a large N, or large group of these, versus an N of one. In Silico by Alex last name too long for me to pronounce. Zavornikov is an example case. The concept of a personal omic wallet is N of one versus a large set that you can use for GWAS or FWAS analysis.
She's referring to phenotypic wide analysis.
Okay, here's the question. What are your thoughts on aggregation of individuals into a large data set? And I'm going to take her question off because it's like cutting off half of our heads here. But Mia, thank you for the question. If you have more questions, audience, please drop it in the chat.
Yeah, as much as I know this is like bad poise on a live stream to say take something offline, Mia, I think that question might go one layer above everything to dissect because it's so important. But I think that idea of batching, in phenotypic and genotypic data is where companies like Genomes DAO and the work that they're doing is coming into play. If you can, the value, if I walked to Johnson & Johnson tomorrow and said, hey, do you guys want my data for drug discovery? They'd tell me to go kick rocks. But if I found, 10,000 other people with similar genomic qualities or similar phenotypes were in targets of interest, that's where the money comes from. And that's where companies like 23andMe have mastered that sales funnel. So what they're doing in kind of cutting out that middleman, giving individuals the ability to aggregate their data and batch it into a decentralized organization that owns and monetizes it and compensates the NFT holders in that organization. That's where I think this kind of large data set analysis will come from. And I was going to say, for those who haven't followed In Silico, really, really cool company to look at. AI and drug discovery, really, really cool stuff.
Absolutely. Hold on one second. See, at some point I'm going to get an assistant to manage all this for me, like the chat and stuff.
That's why I'm looking this way. I'm looking at the comments. It's
yeah. Let's see. Hans Capsperson, just a quick question. He said, he mentioned what surgeon were we talking about? The surgeon is Vinod Dasa, and actually let me drop it in. So, okay. Actually, somebody else dropped it in. Okay. Let me put. You got it? Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Great.
There was a Omar. There was a question up there from Bill, if you see his first question around the kind of the parallels between what you might be seeing in kind of the 1920s and SEC regulation versus this kind of regulatory structure right now. I think that'd be interesting to kind of to touch on.
Oh, Bill Paceman. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, go for it. What's up?
Yeah, just to kind of just to touch on that. I think there are a lot of parallels, but
here we go. Bill Paceman.
Yeah, go ahead.
He looks like he could be your mustache mentor too, Henry, by the way.
I think so. That must be why I wanted to answer the question.
So the question is, suppose people put their medical records in an NFT. What prevents a third party from accessing it and just copying all the data out of it?
That was not the question I was talking about. He's got two. Short
here we go.
Short answer encryption.
That's another great question.
I see his other question above. Go ahead. Answer this one quickly, Henry, and let's pull up his other question.
Encryption. Next question.
Okay, encryption. Yeah, good. Yeah, I was gonna say. Great. All right, here we go. So here's the question. Rug pull, in quotes, sounds a lot like company formation in the 1920s. SEC regulation was introduced as a response to people losing their money in quote unquote companies like that. What do you see as the trade-offs between the SEC style regulation and the current DAO crypto NFT structure? That's a great question.
Yeah, super insightful question. I know, Omar, we've talked a lot about this as kind of the transition of investor, kind of the pendulum swinging around of you, kind of your investor regulations versus your free and open, do whatever you want with your money. So I've gotten to be, I was around when GameStop really started popping off early. And I remember just kind of a lot of what people were discussing and a lot of these ideas for those that were around when retail investors started kind of pooling their money using Wall Street bets, essentially coordinating, holding activities with a stock that was experiencing a short squeeze. And then therefore driving the price of the stock through the roof and costing hedge funds a lot of money as they got caught holding the bag. One thing that I think you bring up a great point, that the regulations that were set there were set in response to individuals losing a ton of their money in these, companies. And what is happening is I think the pendulum is swinging back the other direction from those regulations to retail investors being able to invest more freely and showing appetite and efficacy in doing it, quite frankly. The accredited investor system in the country really does prohibit, I think, a lot of individuals who have disposable income but don't have the pedigree or family money per se to make high risk but high potential reward investments. And so crypto, as you've seen, has been one vehicle by which a lot of these individuals are, potentially losing money but have made significant money. Now, cryptocurrencies themselves as a form of investment obviously have some controversy in that there are a lot of, just high net worth and, whales, as you call them, that drive the market. But I think what I get really excited about is the intersection of what you see with like equity crowdfunding and these DAOs now. So in equity crowdfunding with something like the CARES Act, where MedTech companies can raise, close to $100 million in equity crowdfunding, that kind of narrative is being carried through into the Web3 space. You're seeing DAOs, raise a ton of money with the intention of making investments or purchases. I'll give a few examples and then kind of bring it to MedTech. Constitution DAO was the first to do this. When the Constitution went up for sale, retail investors bought the token.
Wait, I don't want you to gloss over that. When you say the Constitution, like literally the U.S. Constitution, right?
The United States Constitution. Individuals started a decentralized autonomous organization. So basically a company built into the fabric of Web3. Its governance, its rules and policies, its voting, all done on the blockchain on a decentralized ledger. So these individuals had the goal of buying the Constitution, and they came pretty close. Now, though, that idea of using a decentralized organization to fundraise in an unregulated fashion from individuals is being applied for a variety of really cool use cases. If you're a golfer, for example, there's a DAO called Links DAO, LINKSDAO, where individuals, they've minted NFTs that they're selling to individuals, and the goal is to raise enough money to buy a golf course. There's individuals who are doing this to try and buy the Denver Broncos NFL football team. And in MedTech, what you're seeing, or just in MedTech and life science, there's a company called Molecule that has invented an IP NFT framework, and they have seeded a few different DAOs, one called VitaDAO in the longevity biotech space, PsyDAO in the psychedelic space. And the goals of those companies are to fundraise, to make investments in early stage intellectual property in psychedelics, longevity, biotech, et cetera. And I expect to see a lot more DAOs like that driving investment in the future. So I really appreciated that question, Bill. And if you want to talk more about it, feel free to message me.
And there's a term that you'll see pretty common to DAOs where they're trying to build a treasury. And what that treasury is essentially their pool of money to use for different follow-on projects, and exactly what Henry was talking about. So to clarify right now, we're really trying to cover our costs with this and truly focus on the community. And eventually to be able to build a treasury would be a great part of this vision. So we, as the Man Device Club community, can leverage this treasury to build great things together and have everybody with an equal part in feedback and being able to drive this.
Absolutely. And we have some other really good questions come up, but first I got to give some props to one of the funnier comments that I love. Doyle Miller the third, diamond hands, man. Yes, let me tell you, this project, all we want is diamond hands. We don't want paper lettuce hands. So for those who are wondering what that means, that's diamond hands is coming from the retail investor world, meaning when you invest in something, you hold it long. You don't have like weak paper hands where you just try and sell immediately. So yeah, we're looking for diamond hands on this. And in a little bit, I do want to bring up the actual NFT, and maybe we can talk about it, gents. But Scott Nelson has another great question, that's going to piss some people off. But that's what this show's about. We don't hold anything back. So Scott Nelson says, well, if I can mint my own NFT, effectively I am my own NFT, such as healthcare related. Could I theoretically allocate money to my NFT, exchange both data and services directly with a physician? Meaning earlier, we killed EHR companies. Can we kill insurance now too?
I'm sorry. I
love that.
If I can. MDR, if you could start, sorry, I think he might be playing three-dimensional chess while I'm playing checkers, so I need a second here.
Scott Nelson, I love it.
I don't know if I'm smart enough for this question, so I'm just going to let Henry read through it and digest it.
So I'll say this. Yeah, and I gotta spend some time thinking about this. But here's what I would say: we've entered a world where, because of the pandemic, a lot of people are looking for alternatives for lifestyle. For example, working from home. A lot of people realize, hey, I'm making, for example, $150,000 in this job. I'm miserable. I'm traveling all the time. I want to work from home and do these projects and make $100,000 a year, but I have a better quality of life, those kind of things. The other side of it, if you look at healthcare, people who have, at least some kind of an income, right? And you don't have to be a millionaire to do this, are looking for alternatives. For example, Daniel Paul is an orthopedic surgeon. He's the only surgeon right now in the United States who's got no office. He's a mobile orthopedic surgeon and is cash only. Now, the first thing people think about is like, oh, well, only rich people can afford him. That's actually not true. A lot of people of his patients are middle income. People are looking for alternatives. Look, I have health insurance. I pay for my own health insurance. It's good health insurance. Sometimes I can't go see a primary care for like a month or two. So you know what I do? I say, you know what? It's not worth it for me to wait. Instead of paying a $30 copay, I'm willing to pay $100, $200 to see somebody tomorrow to take care of this. So if people are getting more creative about how they look at healthcare and how they manage their own healthcare, they will think of, creative ways like this. And again, I think it just takes little changes and steps to start really not change. I think this healthcare system doesn't need to be disrupted. I think it needs to be completely changed, which means something new and different needs to be created, right? In competition with it. Henry, MDR, thoughts?
Go ahead, MDR.
I think that at a much higher level, when you look at the way that we do things like insurance policies, and they are, living in Web 2 right now, right? So your policy is living in Web 2. The transparency is not quite there. The history of your policy is really entirely, just looking at personal insurance, it's not necessarily, easily accessible what that history looks like. If you have insurance policies that live on the blockchain, that history is very transparent, and you would essentially own that policy because it's something that could be basically living on a block in Web 3. But Henry, I'll let you, add on to that.
No, I think you guys got it. I'm chewing on Scott's question. I think I need to understand a little bit more about how he wants to allocate money. Because it's hard to basically what I could see is because you would need a collection per se for that.
Henry, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You know what this calls for? I think you need to think about this. This needs to be your next article. My personal opinion.
Oh man, this is quite a question. I'm trying to think of the mechanics of it because I don't want to like falsely misunderstand it. Scott, I'm going to ask you to message me and we're going to clarify it because I will put something out about it for sure. But I want to understand the allocation of money to it.
And I think that could be the distinction between your wallet and a digital asset.
And, yeah.
Because your wallet would essentially be, cryptocurrencies became a mainstream source of currency. I think we're starting to slowly get there.
Mm-hmm.
Your currency assets live in your wallet, just like your digital assets do.
And I do see no reason why, for example, a group of physicians could not create whether it was vertical or horizontally integrated, create a decentralized organization where native currency was exchanged and NFTs were minted and they were stored in a wallet for that individuals who were part of that DAO had. So, I mean, I think you could create more of a consortium-based approach to that. But where you draw the line on the community would probably be the challenge.
Hey, Henry, I was going to say, I know you have to hop soon. So why don't we let you kind of have some, final thoughts and words about the project, NFTs, whatever you want. So floor is yours. So take it from there.
I appreciate it. It's not like I haven't had enough speaking time. I've been really enjoyed being up here and talking with everybody. And so I think what I really just want to get across as we do this is, MDR has done a great job kind of putting the point as clearly as we could possibly say, this is not just a cash for NFT thing and you're never going to see people again. The idea here is to activate a community that has proven that and shown that they are interested in, everyone who's on this call obviously has shown interest and fluency with this technology and an appetite to lead in this space. And that's really what I want is, to kind of help bring what we're seeing in Web3 and apply it in a meaningful way to healthcare. So let's not, try and figure out how we get the NFT that Snoop Dogg is buying and, live next to him in Decentraland. I want to figure out how we use this technology to actually improve healthcare. And I think a major first step is understanding the mechanics of it, really doing your research, going down rabbit holes and learning what the infrastructure and landscape looks like, how things like decentralized organizations, cryptocurrencies, NFT, and the metaverse experiences kind of tie together. Having conversations like this where we shoot around ideas, where we take folks like Scott and Bill who are bringing parallels from previous fundraising cycles and crazy ideas about, overhauling really entrenched systems in our healthcare world, and chewing on these ideas as a community. So I'm just super excited to be doing this with everybody. And yeah, please feel free to message me. Let's talk about it. Let's continue building. And if you want to be involved, like I said, the best way to do this is, to join this community by securing an NFT. Go to maddeviceclub.com so that when we, begin to mint these, you have access to one. They're going to be affordable so that people in this community can, join and then help build the future of it with us. Because there's a lot of things that we want to do, a lot of directions we want to go, and we need, really excited, motivated community members.
Absolutely. And Henry, I know you're running short on time, but do you mind taking a few seconds? I'm going to share my screen to show the website, but do you mind walking people through at a high level, more or less the minting process? And for those, here
will be that'll be the minting page and minting infrastructure will be released a little bit later. Right now, it's the sign up. So when we do that, we'll make sure we put content out about it.
Yeah, and let me just show everybody just so people know. I mean, aside from going to the website, this is all you really need to do.
And we're going to make it super easy in terms of the minting process. No, sketchy exchanges of cash or et cetera. We're going to work on kind of the cross mint platform so you can mint using, you can purchase using a credit card that'll get transferred to native crypto, et cetera.
Exactly. And so I was going to say, just for everybody, go to maddeviceclub.com, sign up with your email, first name, last name. We'll send out instructions to make it really easy. And again, just so people see it, this is what the NFT looks like. Okay. It's beautiful. It's a work of art. And something I wanted to point out, by the way, one is we have a really big partner that we're going to be announcing early next week. A press release is actually going to be going out about it, so that's going to be exciting. One thing I would say again, you can buy this NFT. Resales are going to happen. But we've already had some major partners reach out because they want to donate something to the community. So as an example of this, there's different marketing agencies who have reached out and said, hey, we would like to, for example, ship physical assets, whether it's like books or swag or something to anybody who owns your NFT. So just literally owning the NFT today is going to have access to a community, a few other things. But 3-6 months from now, there's going to be a lot of things that it's going to give access to, because again, that's the kind of the beautiful part about these NFTs, that you create these communities. There's value in them. There's education involved, but then certain vendors who want to support the community, they come forward and, it's like an all access ticket.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you later, Henry.
Thanks, Henry.
MDR, as we kind of wrap things up, let's see if there's any other comments or questions, but that we can check on. But as I go through the comments, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about some of the things that you're excited about with the project.
Sure, absolutely. And there's also one thing I want to clarify for those who are new to the NFT process that we haven't explained thoroughly, which the minting process basically just means the process of buying the NFT. So minting essentially is just the generation of this digital asset. So when you do purchase it, it immediately gets transferred into your wallet. So just after touching on that, just want to make sure everybody here is aware. But what I'm excited about, honestly, I was first excited about the phrase "mad device" in the metaverse just because it sounded cool. But it's this whole idea of furthering the community and connecting the community. Because right now, I've got an Instagram page where it's kind of minus my inbox. It's one-way communication. It's me posting memes, doing polls, but my followers can't really interact with each other. So with the ability to connect everybody through the Discord platform and then further make that community more tight-knit through this NFT project, that's what I'm excited about. It's the opportunity for us all to get connected in a single forum, to share ideas and build something together. Because it started with, hey, NFTs are cool, let's make one, to actually uncovering the utility and the real benefits to a community by doing something like this. And what's even more exciting is that this is the first project of its kind in this category. And like Omar and Henry mentioned earlier, we're doing this to really lay the foundation to do more with Web3 and NFT technology, and use our community to do it together in more of a DAO-like structure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, I'm messaging Fabian about this. Give me 1 second.
Sure. And while you're waiting on that, I just want to let everybody know, if you're not familiar with the Discord app, you can download it. If you have an iPhone and Android, you can download the browser. There's a browser-based app, but you can also download a desktop version of this. So it'd be a good thing to do before this project starts, just to familiarize yourself with Discord, how it works. And the way to join is we will have an invite that'll be posted across all of our platforms. That'll give you access to the broader community.
Yeah, and Fabian, I was going to say, so Fabian says, I love the idea. I hope I can afford to join it. You can, because again, we're going to price the NFT around like $100 or so bucks. Like it's going to be affordable for everybody. Something that I just want to point out, just because I think it's such a great conference, and I selfishly want to see like more and more people know about it outside of just like strategics and investors. But the conference that we're going to be speaking at, the Emerging MedTech Conference, just so people know, if you can't be there in person in Dana Point, if you go to lifesciencemarketresearch.com and go to the Emerging MedTech Summit, where it says virtual is open, if you click that, you actually have two choices. You can do $750 for the live stream plus recordings, or if you're an investor, it's $1,700, and you can actually do recordings, and you have the partner app. And there's hundreds of medtech companies presenting. Something that's interesting, and again, this is why I wanted to share this. The keynote is going to be David Wheel, who came up with the Jobs Act under the Obama administration, which talks about equity crowdfunding, which was really designed just for healthcare, right? And so you have somebody like that speaking, plus all these strategics and VCs giving a talk. And then Henry, myself, and Scott Pentel are going to be doing the panel on the NFTs and Web3. So I share that just because it's a really exciting time in medtech. And even if you may not understand some of these things, a lot of people don't, that's fine. I would say find ways to learn about it through these sort of events. Again, the NFT Web3 talk that I'll be doing with Henry, we're going to have that video. You'll be able to watch that later on for free. But to sort of see the other talks like the Wheeled keynote and some of these other investor talks, I think it's worth the money to do the virtual and actually watch them. It's one of the best conferences. I actually stopped going to JP Morgan Health and prefer this one. So shameless plug, Scott Pentel. I hope you appreciate that. But it's a great organization. Let's see. Before we wrap up, MDR, any other topics we want to cover before we let everybody go? And again, thank you all for joining. For those, we can take maybe one or two more questions, but anything else we haven't covered, MDR?
I think for what we wanted to excuse me. I think for what we wanted to discuss today, it's been pretty thorough, and appreciate everybody's engagement. This was fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. This recording will live on this event, so you can come back and watch it. We'll publish this on our podcast, which is The State of MedTech. You can find it across all platforms. If you listen to this podcast, please do us a big favor on Apple. Give us a 5-star review and write a review. Like, you can just be short, like great podcast, whatever. It really helps us because we want more people to find this. And for those who are physicians who are watching this, I'm going to make this eligible for a CME credit via our partners at CMify. So just look in the show notes when this is published on YouTube or our podcasting platforms. You just click a link, take 30 seconds to write a quick reflection, and then you're able to claim an ACCME CME credit. So that's all for today. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you next time on The State of MedTech. Go to the maddeviceclub.com, sign up for our list, and hopefully you'll be joining our first initial mint. We'll see you all next time.